Nobody wants the truth anymore. Actually, that's not true. Most people think they want the truth until the truth disagrees with them. And that's where something called cognitive dissonance begins. Now, before anyone gets defensive, cognitive dissonance isn't stupidity. It's not ignorance. It's not a political problem. It's a human problem. It's what happens when reality starts threatening a belief we've become emotionally attached to. And once you understand that, social media starts making a lot more sense. Politics start making a lot more sense. The news starts making a lot more sense. Financial markets start making a lot more sense. Even your own behavior starts making a lot more sense. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't actually search for the information. They search for confirmation. And those are not the same thing. Think about it. Social media, most people don't follow accounts that challenge their worldview. They follow accounts that reinforce it. People say they want balanced information, but the content that performs best usually is the content that people want to already see and hear. That's not a criticism. It's human nature. Now, let's talk about the news. People often say the media is lying or the media is biased. Maybe, sometimes. But I think something deeper is happening. Most people don't consume news. They consume news that aligns with what they already believe or they think they believe. Two people can watch the same exact event, read the same exact facts, and walk away with completely different conclusions. Not because they saw different information, but because they interpreted that information through different beliefs. Now, let's talk about politics. And no, this isn't about left or right, because both sides do it. People will defend behavior from their own side that they would immediately condemn if the other side did the exact same thing. And again, that's not intelligence. That's not ignorance. It's just cognitive dissonance. Because changing your mind is uncomfortable. Yeah. Admitting you were wrong or uncomfortable. Updating your belief is uncomfortable. And human beings naturally resist discomfort. Now, let's talk about money. Because the same thing happens in housing, stocks, crypto, interest rates, markets. People don't usually search for evidence that they're wrong. They search for evidence that they're right. If someone believes housing is going to crash, they'll notice every article that supports that belief. If someone believes housing is going to soar forever, they'll notice every article supporting that belief. Same information, different conclusions. Now, enter artificial intelligence. And this is where things get really interesting. Because AI didn't create this problem. It amplified it. Today, you can ask an AI almost any question, and depending on how you ask it, you can often get the information that appears to support almost any position, which means confirmation just became easier. And that brings us to what I think the real issue is. The problem isn't misinformation. The problem isn't technology. The problem isn't social media. The deeper problem is motivation. Because if someone desperately wants something to be true, they become vulnerable to anything that confirms it. And if someone desperately doesn't want something to be true, they become resistant to evidence that challenges them. That's cognitive dissonance. And honestly, once you see it, you start seeing it everywhere. You see it in politics. You see it in investing. You see it in media. You see it in social movements. You see it in business. You see it in relationships. You see it in yourself, which is probably the hardest part. Because it's easy to recognize cognitive dissonance in other people. It's much harder to recognize it in yourself. And that leads to the most important idea of the entire video. The internet didn't create cognitive dissonance. Humans have always had it. The internet industrialized it. Because for most of human history, finding information was difficult. Today, finding information that agrees with you is effortless. And when confirmation becomes easier than curiosity, people stop searching for what's true and start searching for what feels true. Those are not the same thing. Which may explain why trust feels like it's collapsing. Not because information disappeared, no. Because information exploded. We have more information than any generation in history. More experts, more opinions, more content, more data, more perspectives. And somehow, people trust each other less. Maybe that's not a coincidence. Maybe the challenge of the next decade won't be finding information. We'll have more information on that than anything. The challenge will be recognizing for protecting a belief instead of pursuing the truth. Because those two things can feel exactly the same until reality forces the difference. And that may be one of the most important skills a person can develop in the modern world. The ability to ask, what if I'm wrong? Because the people most likely to find the truth are often the people most willing to question themselves. And in a world increasingly obsessed with picking a side, that may be the hardest thing of all.